Hello everyone, and welcome to Deconstructing Politics. My name is Elijah Kinnear.
And my name is Eli and Toli Rasmussen.
Oh my goodness, it's another guest co-host episode because Tommy decided to flee off to Madison.
Yeah, no, he's just doing his usual.
Oopsies!
Always bailing on us.
He's enjoying the parties down there. So, I guess top of the order in the news, there hasn't been much, but recently a 14-year-old suspect in Georgia, there was a school shooting in Winder, GA, that left 4 dead and multiple injured. The suspect was white, and he was taken alive.
Yeah, just on that, of course, that with the school shootings, it gets absolutely wild. It's on the daily that this is basically happening in the U.S. Absolutely insane. That, you know, there is the just typical average school shooting in the U.S., you know, it happens on the daily, whereas in other countries, of course, they're not experiencing this, all due to lack of gun control and just empathy towards right-wing extremists on the usual.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, reading more into the story, that the kid was bullied, of course. A lot of the some teachers and family have come out saying, hey, you know, he was bullied, he had to go through torture on a daily basis, and then finally, you know, I guess snapped, taken alive, but this is once again just another symbol of the mental health crisis in America. We do not have the mental health services to kind of like help these people, and rampant gun violence in America, which has generally been normalized. I mean, you and I both were similar ages. I remember Florida when the shootings happened down there in Parkland, and then everything. It's just kind of like something you deal with.
Yeah, it's just become extremely normalized within American society that school shootings have become regular, and we're so desensitized to it. And as someone who believes in the intersectionality, I mean, a lot of the process, like you said, that the student was bullied repeatedly from what it sounds like. And on top of that, I mean, like, the guidance counselors, as someone who, you know, who has gone through the American public school system, has had to talk to school counselors about specific things. But the thing is of course, with our public school systems, they're very underfunded in terms of their staff, which includes teachers, the guidance counselors, so on and so forth. Like, this student have gotten the proper care they needed if only the counselors were paid well enough really to care, so on and so forth. There's so many contributing factors from outside of just the bullying, but this bullying could definitely been addressed properly.
Yeah, it's a real crisis of the fact that mental health in America, for one thing, isn't really a big priority, both in schools, out of schools. Time and time again has failed individuals. It's insanely underfunded, and then, you know, like, on top of that, it's just kind of like normalized, like, bullying. There's not a lot of, like, in an individualistic society, it's kind of like fend for yourself, you know, kids will be kids. There's not a lot of intervention being made. And then on top of that, like, an underfunding of public education, where these people aren't being paid enough, counselors aren't being paid enough, maybe not even being, you know, kind of trained enough on how to deal with these sort of situations, where then you get these crises where a kid snaps. And, you know, not to defend what he did whatsoever, it's still a horrific crime. Everyone, including even people that were not injured, are still victims of such a, you know, tragic, traumatizing event. They have to pay the price for the failures of the system. And to this day, politicians don't want to reckon with that. They don't want to put funding to public education. They want to put funding to mental health. It's more important to then put funding into the American war machine than it is to take care of our own people. And then we turn around and be like, oh, you know, why are people having these mental breaks where they kill people?
backing you up on that, comrade, 100%, is, as we said on the Wednesday rally, is money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation. And that is something that definitely the public of the U.S. is really trying to get across. And it, again, like you said, absolutely horrific crime. And it's sad to see our own fellow Americans murdering each other in cold blood, and that they feel they are being pushed to that point. And on top of that, it's just, as you to reiterate, is the lack of funding for mental health institutions and for mental health workers, to the point where the people in need of help are not getting the help that they need.
Yeah, totally correct. And hopefully that system changes soon. Hopefully there's a lot more funding and attention being allocated to public education and mental health. Our hearts go out to the victims and the people that were both injured, killed, and those that will unfortunately have to be going to therapy for the rest of their lives upon dealing with this event. But with that, I kind of want to go back to something you said. So there was a Wednesday rally. You want to tell us something about that?
Yeah, for the Wednesday rally, that is referring to a rally that was spearheaded by UWM SDS. If you don't know what SDS is, it is Students for a Democratic Society. You may have heard their name in the past, referring to the Vietnam protests in the 1960s. They were a very influential political group during that time, specifically with young generation people. And for specifically the rally, it was a pro-Palestine rally that we had at the UWM library, which is, of course, named Golda Meir after a Zionist, which is one of our core things that we want to change. We want to rename our library after someone who isn't fundamental to the ideology of genocidal occupation. And during that rally, I was one of the co-MCs representing YDSA, so basically leading chants and introducing the oncoming speakers. And it was a very exciting rally. It was a lot of new freshman students that came in and joined, many of which looking to join organizations. And I actually saw SDS's general meeting yesterday, and there was about 30 to 40 people in that one general meeting. It was very exciting. And so happy to see our comrades flourishing, and I hope to see ourselves flourishing in the oncoming weeks, days, so on and so forth. But during the end of the rally, and we also had a sign-up email list for this, is our oncoming actions dealing with our university housing workers being underpaid, overworked, and overall just being treated as how typical capitalist owners treat their workers. If you'd like to kind of speak more a little bit on that, and I'll build off further.
Yeah, so as far as I heard with our friends in UWM YDSA and a bunch of the housing workers, and student workers in general, criminally underpaid. A lot of the RAs, it's a very demanding job. Not only do you have to run a whole floor, but you have to deal with mental health emergencies on which multiple housing members have told us about some pretty egregious cases. You're essentially expected to serve as a social worker and also a student and also running a floor of a dorm, which is a very demanding job that they only get paid, what is it, $11 an hour for?
And that is they get paid $11 an hour for working the front desk, which front desk workers usually do. Otherwise, they get the free quote-unquote housing, but there's many hours that they work that is unpaid labor.
Yes, and which is, of course, very demanding. That's a lot of hours that could be spent doing homework, could be spent doing other things, but they do it because of the promise-free housing. And the pay that they're going to get, I mean, even as someone making $16.50 at my catering job, it could be rough. You still have to afford food. You still have to afford rent. Everyone's suffering under kind of the current system of pay. But that is egregious. And then on top of that, it sounds like desk workers, the people that work the front desk, that work security, have a new tap-in policy where they have to physically take the ID and then tap them in. So, which of course is not only a health hazard with COVID because you have to take every individual's ID, exposing yourself. They recently did institute some PPE, but that is still a risk, and it is greatly made lines longer, made the entire process more long and bureaucratic, and forced many housing workers, because they're on a stipend, to work hours that they should more hours than they should be, and without the pay to reflect it.
Yeah, so to add further on to that, I was actually speaking to an RA housing worker at Sandburg. They work at Sandburg, and I was telling them about the petition and everything like that, and he was so excited to actually hear that someone wanted to do something about their working conditions, and was basically reiterating like a bunch of the main points that we were learning within a few days ago, which is that even though the RAs, when they work front desk, get paid $11 an hour, they are on a stipend pay, meaning that they only can reach a max amount of pay per pay period, which is less than $200. I believe it's about $150
Oh my God.
per payment, and that is the maximum. And often the university, because they are lacking the front desk workers, they are being overworked. From what I've heard, sometimes it can go up to about a 14-hour shift. And one of the demands actually is capping the shifts at a 9-hour limit. And as you said, with the tapping policy, one of the main things is that the university housing specifically advertised working at the front desk is a time you can also do spending homework. And they actually said that using or doing homework at the front desk is a privilege. And this is geared towards all these workers that are all students. And of course, most of these students that are working in housing, that are RAs specifically, to get the quote-unquote free housing, is that they are doing it because of lack of funding for their tuition costs. And so it's very obvious that they definitely need the money. And to top that off is just that the university is not at all ignorant of the fact of these conditions. They simply just don't care.
Yeah, it's really pretty awful. I mean, we've been working on this for a couple of months now as UWM YDSA, talking with and hearing all these concerns and demands from housing workers. It's pretty bad out there, and the need for better conditions and better, like, just everything is crazy. I really hope that whatever actions they take about, whatever they go forth with, helps a lot. I've also been hearing they're already having an understaffing problem for the most part. So can they really push these guys that hard before they break? Can they really push these housing workers? Because it sounds like if they even lose like 20 people in a dorm, you're done. You're done. Like, good luck.
Yeah, it is just simply like they even admitted, both on the workers' side and the university side, is they are on the complete shortage of these housing workers, to the point it's just like you could even just get like maybe even 10, 15 people no longer working in housing, or if they decided to just simply do a strike or whatever they plan to do, or just simply quit, the university housing at specifically their Sandburg Towers, which is their main dormitory, which houses thousands of students, would be completely non-functional.
Wow. Just the understaffing and everything, and then the conditions that they pose on these workers is absolutely insane. It's hard to fathom. I know we were talking about like a bunch of people that are very angry, discontented, and then just like hearing about the amount of people, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and they can't afford to lose these people either. So, I mean, and I'm hoping, kind of the students are also annoyed because, I mean, I never experienced dorm life. Thankfully, I did visit a friend and had to experience some of dorm life, which was awful. Guy threw up in a private bathroom. Really fun story. But I bet those housing people, I mean, if I had to go through a whole process just to tap into my dorm every single day, maybe even multiple times a day, I'd be infuriated. That'd be frustrating.
Yeah, and with the main thing with their tapping policy is it is a huge concern not just to RAs for their health safety, but is also a huge concern to students in general that are physically disabled or they are not able to actively get into their dorm almost immediately for medical reasons, whether it be they leave their insulin in their dorm or whether it be they leave their just emergency medical stuff in their dorm. It is a serious thing where they have to wait from what it sounded like almost 5 to 10 minutes sometimes if you're at the back of the line during the busy part of the day, which is usually Monday through Fridays. It's very busy in the dorms midday. And, of course, that's when most students are going to and from their dorm. And, I mean, what do you do when you have your, emergency medical stuff in your dorm and there are people at the front desk that are not medically trained to deal with your situation? None of these RAs or security desk workers are at all medically trained or trained to even deal with medical situations. It's just, hey, there's a med kit over there, if something goes down, deal with it or call an ambulance. So I'm you kind of need almost at that point either a first responder or just allow students to have easy access to their dorm as they used to before the semester.
Yeah, that's something I didn't even initially think of. Is kids with disabilities. What happens when you need to get your insulin or your medication at a specific time and you can't even get it into your dorm to get it? I mean, what are you gonna do then if there's a line with the tap out policy? And especially with all these medical things, it makes it much more complicated, much more lengthy. You're basically almost risking people's health. And as you said, a bunch of those guys aren't trained. They haven't done EMT training. They haven't done even kind of bare minimums CPR, all that sort of stuff. So it's a massive risk on all fronts and is just another clear sign of the university just not caring really about workers' rights. And something definitely needs to change. I wish all of those student workers so much luck because whatever they do, something needs to change, and apparently the university is not listening to them as they don't really listen to many people to begin with.
Yeah, no, I mean, as we can tell, as both members of YDSA and also on top of that being in the coalition, we have obviously can tell that the university is not our friend. Whenever we pursue an action that is against the monetary or ideological difference of the university is never going to have the students' best interests at heart. It's always going to be their financial and political interests. And to not necessarily to move on, but also to bring up another situation is YDSA and 4 out of the 5 orgs have been restored. We are no longer suspended for the investigation they put us under. I don't know if you really are able to speak 100% on that situation, but I'd love to hear some more.
So it sounds like basically we were unsuspended. For one thing, it was a ridiculous investigation at the beginning point. Allegations of anti-Semitism, intimidation of students. And as we said in previous episodes, what's intimidating about, opposing genocide, none of our members have spouted anti-Semitism. At the encampment, we had many Jewish activists and Jewish members of different organizations really out there in support of us, have continued to be supportive of our work. That, I'm just a little rural white boy, but that was my biggest exposure to Jewish culture, and I learned so much. And now they were anti-Semitism, intimidating students were exonerated. now were unsuspended, but they ridiculously are still putting the boot on SDS, which have been, one of the more active members, in actions on sitting in on the chancellor's office, and so they've gotten special attention on being kind of stamped out on. So, and I'm sure you know a lot more about that, but we're back. Thankfully, we're back. But if they think that's going to deter us, or we're going to be like, oh, thank you, Mr. University, we'll stop. No, we're going to be out tabling, and we're also going to talk about how ridiculous it is that SDS is still being basically oppressed by the university.
Yeah, as someone who's really close with some comrades from the SDS group at UWM, is that those previous, like, quote-unquote offenses is what really contributing to their still ongoing suspension. And, of course, as I mentioned earlier, SDS's population is still rapidly growing. And I'm so happy to see that for them, and because they do a lot of great work, and that is why I love working with them so much. When we go out and do actions, we do rallies, they are always such a pleasure to work with. Never once have I ever had a bad experience working with them. And again, so happy that we're unsuspended, but also like our comrade here in the booth has said, we will still keep pushing. We're not going to keep stopping just because they unsuspended us and they're being so nice to us. But it's just the behavior of the university is very childlike in nature. That's all I really got to say about them.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely ridiculous, and we've been dealing with this for basically months now. So once again, we're not going to rest. We're not going to stop. For one thing, until Palestine is free, and once our SDS and also when our SDS comrades are, stop being persecuted by the university. You can never trust liberals to not turn on any left-wing force. And actually, smooth transition. Did you hear about France, Toli, or?
Are you referring to Macron trying to prevent the left wing, which now has the majority, from picking a prime minister?
Oh, yes. This is I'm a big foreign policy guy. I'm a big, other countries guy. Yeah, so recently, they finally came to a decision on the government. Macron has decided to side with with the right wing, and the center-right Republican Party. They're tapping them to take the prime ministership and form a government, despite the fact that the left-wing coalition came in first place in the elections. Now, can you guess where that center-right party came in? Can you guess which place it came in?
Let me guess. Last place?
Ooh, fourth place, actually. Yes.
Yikes.
Yeah, fourth place. The only ones beating them, I believe, were the independent bloc. So fourth place, center-right party getting the prime ministership in government, and the far-right party has absolutely celebrated this and is agreeing to support this government. Now, it's interesting because the left-wing party, led by Mélenchon, were the ones that were supporting Macron against far-right forces. They said, we'll pull our candidates if Macron's party is running against in the final round against a far-right opponent. And now Macron and the center liberals basically turned around and been like, nah, we're going to do our own thing. We're going to side with the right. We don't actually care as long as it keeps socialists out of power, which, we've seen time and time again. I was not totally surprised, but...
Yeah, it's like total fascist enabling behavior that you usually see from quote-unquote center-right conservatives and also liberals. They would rather always side with the far-right than the at all of the left, even the quote-unquote center-left. And even though that the left wing as a general coalition has the majority, of course, everything that is not within that coalition is trying to fight it off in terms of gaining prime ministership. Absolutely, just again, as I'm just attributing this as the same behavior that the university acts upon us, just infantile behavior. not knowing how to behave like adults, and actually, even when it works with the system, when we work within the system as leftists, they are always still trying to suppress us in every way possible, whether that's from gaining power, whether it's us trying to speak out against actions of an absolutely like disgusting behavior of far right-wing people within our government or just in general. They'll always try to silence us, whether they're a liberal, conservative, or far right-wing extremist.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this just time and time again, whether it's Jeremy Corbyn in Britain, who got kicked out of the Labour Party, had to run as an independent, whether it's pro-Palestinian activists who've been largely ignored, like at the DNC, where a bunch of the uncommitted delegation who were mostly concerned about the genocide going on in Gaza were never given a speaking role and largely ignored. We see time and time again when it comes to the interests of global capitalism, whether it comes to the interests of the ruling class, they're going to choose either centrism or even right-wing politics every single time if it protects their interests. I mean, there's a reason why Kamala Harris at the DNC gave a speech saying we are fully committed to the defense of Israel. There's a reason why at every point they have balked left-wing movement, because at the end of the day, if you start looking at the root causes of these issues, you're going to find the fact that it kind of leads back to global capitalism. It leads back to the global bourgeois, and you're going to have to start actually reckoning with the system, and that is something they simply can't do. So, I mean, not surprising. I mean, we should totally expect this. We have seen it historically in the left, but still disappointing, still all that. But it sounds like, in France at least, Toli, can you remind me, how well does it go over when you make the French public really mad? I don't
know. Did you guys ever see those videos of trash all over the streets? And then also seeing repeatedly, fires being held in the torches of people's hands, people absolutely going wild. I mean, the French love to riot literally over just being for almost any given situation. And I mean, the last time I saw them do a really big riot was, what was it, raising the retirement age. Oh, it was the pension age.
And retirement, yeah.
Yeah, the retirement and pension age it was like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, like, I mean, love my French comrades that are able to do all that for very like things that are not even a thing in the U.S. But like the French really know what's up, and they know exactly how to show the government that they are unsatisfied, and the government will definitely know. I mean, you look in Paris, all over the streets when the French people get mad, it reflects very clearly on the streets.
As an Eagles fan, I love it. Whenever the Eagles lose and we riot, whenever the Eagles win and we riot, I love it. Some brotherly love. But yeah, I mean, they have the massive support of the unions. My favorite video to come out of that was the firefighters just like pressure washing French cops. I mean, challenge the French public and make them mad if you dare. That's all I'm gonna say. And it sounds like they're already mobilizing the unions, already mobilizing everyone. So, good luck to Macron. Good luck to the far right in France. Because avoid the Paris streets. If you want to go on a vacation to Paris, I would avoid around late September.